Kero is a 2-year-old boy and the younger brother of Ryu. Their parents tragically perished in a plane crash. Today, they are meeting the chairwoman of a school who also lost her children in the same accident. The chairwoman wishes to adopt them. Upon their arrival, she greets them with, "Why are you so late? I've been waiting since morning." In an unexpected moment, Sero calls her Shaggy, prompting Ryu to cover his mouth and apologize on his behalf. The chairwoman then proposes a condition for their stay. Ryu must work part-time as a babysitter at her school. A staff member named Siwa escorts them to the daycare, where children are playing. Siwa explains that this is a babysitter club, an idea initiated by the chairwoman's son, though it never took off due to a lack of interest. Inspired, Ryu declares, "As the first member of this club, I'll do everything I can." Siwa, moved by Ryu's dedication, wishes him luck and departs. As Ryu opens the daycare door, all the children stop playing to stare at them. Then, they dash towards Siwa, hiding behind him. One child tugs at Siwa's ear, waking him up. Siwa introduces himself to Ryu as Ooze Yahoo, a graduate of the school and their sole caretaker. Ooze mentions he's heard of Ryu and Siwa. The children eagerly ask Ooze if they can play with Ryu and Siwa. Ooze instructs them to introduce themselves first, forming a naming train. They energetically shout out their names: Kirin, Taka, Takuma, Kazuma, Takuma's twin, and the youngest, Midori. After introductions, Ryu introduces Sero, who is placed on the ground. However, Taka calls him a monster, rallying the others to attack Monster Sero. Ryu intervenes, offering to play the monster for them instead. The children enthusiastically attack Ryu, poking and pulling at him. Observing this, Sero tries to help his brother, but is repeatedly pushed back. Feeling helpless, Sero retreats to the bookshelf, grabbing a book and glancing at Ryu, who is surrounded by kids. Ooze notices Sero's loneliness and gently asks if he'd like the book read to him. Sero silently shakes his head but continues to gaze at Ryu. Understanding his feelings, Ooze pats him, assuring him that Ryu is just caught up in the moment. Ooze soon informs Ryu that his shift is over and hands him Midori, asking if he can manage the kids alone. Ryu confidently agrees. As Ooze leaves, he privately muses that he might have stayed longer if Ryu had asked. Ryu changes Midori's diaper, only to be interrupted by Taka, who climbs on him. Kirin then offers food she has prepared only for the twins, Takuma and Kazuma, to accidentally ruin it while playing. Ryu comforts the saddened Kirin while tending to the crying Midori. Throughout the chaos, Sero remains quiet, feeling out of place. The children's mothers arrive to collect them, introducing themselves as Yukari, Yumi, and Yoi. They warmly greet Ryu and Sero before leaving. Just as Ryu settles down, Taka's older brother Hayato arrives to pick him up. Introducing himself, Hayato reveals he's a third-year student at the same school as Ryu. Hayato appears stern but reasonable, though Taka resists leaving, wanting to stay and play with Ryu. Hayato reprimands Taka, sparking tears. Ryu steps in, noting that Sero seems lonely, and decides to spend more time with his brother. Later, Sato collapses with a fever, prompting Ryu to rush him to the hospital with Hayato's help. A doctor informs Ryu that the fever is likely caused by the stress of their new environment. While waiting, Ryu reflects on his parents, overcome with grief at the realization that he and Sato are now alone. The chairwoman appears, comforting him by reminding him that although the departed won't return, they aren't truly alone. Her words finally allow Ryu to release his pent-up emotions. Back inside, a nurse brings out a crying Sero who immediately reaches for Ryu. Hugging his brother tightly, Ryu scolds him gently, saying, "You should have called for me sooner, you little fool." That night, Ryu wonders if Sero has come to understand that they'll never see their parents again. The chairwoman later enters to tuck them in, adjusting their blankets. After she leaves, Ryu begins to cry, finally agreeing with her words. No one is ever truly alone. The following morning, the chairwoman notices some shabby flowers on her desk and asks Seiwa about them. Seiwa explains that Ryu and Sero had picked them for her. When he moves to throw them away, she blushes and changes her mind, deciding to keep them. Meanwhile, Ryu stumbles through introducing himself in class, but seeing Hayato's reassuring expression, he gains confidence and completes his introduction. At the daycare, Taka asks Sero if he'd like to read his favorite book together. Sero nods, prompting smiles from the other children. Later, Ryu reads a Power Rangers story aloud. Taka claims the role of the Red Ranger, but Takuma and Kazuma both want to be Red Rangers too. Kirin declares herself the Pink Ranger, while Ooze dozes off holding Midori. The next morning, Ryu wakes up to find Sero curled up on his chest. He groggily sits up and hugs him, once again reminded of their parents' absence. Suddenly, the chairwoman bursts in, shouting for them to get up and prepare for school. Siwa announces that breakfast and lunch are ready, but Siwa tugs on the chairwoman's hair and calls her Shaggy. She warns him that if he does it again, she'll give him the same haircut. Siwa imagines it and finds the idea amusing. Before leaving, she presents Ryu with his new school uniform, and he feels grateful for her thoughtfulness. At the daycare, as Sero removes his shoes, Ooze is surprised that the stingy hag bought Ryu a uniform. Ooze tells Sero he'll be back at lunchtime and heads to class. However, Ryu feels self-conscious as other students stare at him. Hayato soon appears, explaining that it's because Ryu brought kids with him. Ryu turns to see Taka and Sero, who had followed him. Embarrassed, Ryu tries to manage the situation, but Taka's antics soon lead to a confrontation with a fierce girl named Inamada, a top student known for her strict demeanor. She scolds Ryu for turning the school into a playground, leaving the children frightened. Apologizing, Ryu takes them back to the daycare. Back at the daycare, they find Ooze napping again. Hayato wakes him with a shove, while Ryu notices that Sero seems disheartened. He pats Sero's head to cheer him up. Inamada appears with Taka's forgotten lunch, sent by his mother who teaches at the school. Her arrival terrifies the children, but she merely hands over the lunch and prepares to leave. Suddenly, Ooze clutches his stomach in pain and asks Hayato to escort him to the nurse's office. He leaves Ryu and Inamada in charge of the kids. Though Ryu assures Inamada he can manage alone, she insists on staying, saying it's her duty. The children, however, avoid her. When she offers to hold Midori, she turns red, loudly justifying her intent to help. Her voice wakes Midori, who begins crying, prompting Ryu to console her. Taka, however, pokes Inamada with a toy sword, calling her a villain. She demands to know who they're calling a villain, startling the kids. Ryu steps in, urging them to apologize, but Inamada waves it off, lamenting that no one likes her. She admits that studying is the only thing she excels at. Kirion gently reassures her not to cry, and the children, moved, apologize sincerely. Inamada, overwhelmed, hugs them. Soon she falls asleep alongside the kids. Later, Sarah stares at the tiger on his sweater. When Ryu asks why, he admits that Taka called it dumb because he's never seen a real tiger. Taka defends his comment, but Hayato scolds him for being rude. Taka defends his tears, accusing his brother of hating him. Hayato bluntly replies that he neither likes nor hates him, causing Taka to wail louder and storm off to Ooze. Hayato picks him up and takes him home. Afterward, Ryu suggests to Sero that they visit the zoo over the weekend. The other kids eagerly express their desire to join. Ooze appears, offering to accompany them since he can earn extra pay for working on weekends. During dinner, Ryu asks the chairwoman for permission to take the children on a zoo trip. She agrees but refuses to pay Ooze, pointing out that the mothers are also joining the outing. When Ryu invites her to come along, she declines, calling the zoo a stinky place. On the day of the trip, Seiwa hands Ryu a large lunchbox and some money from the chairwoman. At the zoo, Ryu offers to pay Ooze using the money, but Ooze refuses, jokingly planning to sell photos of the kids to fathers who couldn't attend. Hayato, dressed in basketball gear, drops off Taka before heading to practice. The group begins their tour with the elephants, which amaze the children. Ooze takes photos as they visit various animals. When a tiger roars behind the glass, the children panic and run to Ooze and their mothers for comfort. Only Sero stays behind, frozen in fear. Ryu notices his expression and gently picks him up, realizing that if they were in the wild, Sero would be the first to be eaten. Later, the children enjoy seeing tiger cubs, and Ooze announces it's time for lunch. While retrieving their lunch, Ryu notices Sero staring at a family enjoying the zoo together. For a moment, he imagines his own parents. Ooze calls out, breaking his reverie, and the group gathers for a meal. The mothers compliment Sero's beautifully arranged animal-shaped lunchboxes. Afterward, Ooze snaps a picture of the children with rabbits, confident it will sell well. Sero points at a sheep and nicknames it Shaggy, like the chairwoman. Laughing, Ryu and Chero pose beside it for a photo. At the gift shop, the kids beg their mothers for souvenirs. Chero wants a keychain resembling the chairwoman, so Ryu takes him to pay, leaving Taka in Ooze's care. Ooze offers to buy a souvenir for Taka's brother, but Taka blushes and insists he doesn't want one. He suddenly spots someone resembling Hayato and runs off. Ooze, preoccupied with choosing souvenirs, doesn't notice Taka is missing until the rest of the children return. As it grows dark, Taka realizes the man isn't his brother. Panicked and alone, he trips, falls, and starts crying for Hayato. Hayato appears, picks him up, and scolds him for getting lost. Ryu soon arrives, relieved to see Taka safe. Hayato lightly smacks Taka's head, demanding an apology. Later, as the day ends, Ryu mentions to Hayato that Taka had felt very lonely without him. Hayato admits he came because his mother scolded him for leaving Taka alone. That night, as Sero and Taka sleep, Taka mumbles, "I love you, brother." Hayato mutters, "Idiot, I don't hate you either." Ryu teases Hayato, saying that despite his cold demeanor, it's clear he cares deeply for his brother. The next day, Sero is quietly reading while the other kids play. Ooze notices the calendar and announces it's Valentine's Day. Holding out his hand, he demands Valentine's gifts from the kids' mothers. The children, confused, exclaim they don't have any gifts for him. Meanwhile, at school, girls gossip about Valentine's Day and tease a shy girl named Yuki about her crush. When they ask Ryu if anyone gave him chocolate, Yuki secretly feels relieved when he says no, as she likes him. Elsewhere, a girl offers Hayato chocolate, but he bluntly refuses, saying he doesn't like sweets. This earns teasing from the boys, who beg for the chocolate instead. The attention shifts to Yagi, a popular and brilliant student showered with chocolates. Inamata, annoyed because gift-giving is against school rules, tries to intervene but is brushed off by the girls. Yagi, ever the charmer, diffuses the tension and accepts the chocolates graciously. Later, Yagi approaches Inamata and mentions hearing about her helping at the daycare. Curious, he expresses interest in joining the babysitting club. Embarrassed, Inamata snaps at him to ask the club himself before storming off. She overhears some students calling her a stick in the mud and begins to question if she truly ruins fun wherever she goes. Yagi visits the daycare, where Ryu enthusiastically introduces the children. Yagi quickly bonds with them, complimenting Kirion's pigtails, praising Taka for being cool, and admiring Midori's eyes. He tells the twins, Takuma and Kazuma, they look like best friends, which delights them. Ryu is amazed at how naturally Yagi connects with the kids. However, in the library, Inamata overhears two boys commenting on how Yagi is always glaring at children. Alarmed, she rushes to the daycare to rescue them. At the daycare, Yagi smiles at Sero, commenting on how round and plump he looks. Just as he reaches out, Inamata bursts through the door, shouting for him to stop. She was startled to see blood on the floor, but soon realized it was just Yagi, who had a nosebleed from poking Kataro's cheeks. The situation took a darker turn when Yagi's friend Nezu arrived in the daycare room, accusing him of being a pervert. Shocked, Ryu quickly pulled the kids away from Yagi, who denied the accusation, claiming his nosebleed was caused by too much chocolate. Nezu, however, pointed out that he hadn't seen Yagi eat any. Nezu dragged him away, and though Yagi agreed not to join the club, he asked if he could visit occasionally to poke the kids' cheeks. Yagi poked Midori's cheek, saying it was fun. The kids, having just learned about chocolate, now wanted some too. Yagi started offering them some, but Nezu stopped him. The kids begged Inamda for chocolate, but she told them it was against school rules, making them cry. She promised them chocolate the next day, and they cheered up immediately. Ryu and Inamda walked home together as the day came to an end. He asked her to wait, then ran into a store. A few minutes later, he returned, handing her a small box of chocolate. Ryu explained that giving chocolates off campus was okay. Inamda teased him for being a stick in the mud, to which he replied he liked that about her. He then said goodbye and walked away, leaving her blushing. Meanwhile, Yuki was secretly watching them, wondering if they were a couple. Back at the store, Yagi was buying chocolates for the kids, joking about how he imagined Sero's cheeks stuffed with chocolate while he had his nosebleed. Siwa offered Ryu and Sero some homemade chocolate. Siwa reached for it, and Siwa helped him take one. Siwa then asked his brother to open his mouth and fed him the chocolate, which Ru gratefully accepted. Meanwhile, Inamda was picking out chocolates for the daycare kids. The next day, during PE, the boys shivered in the cold. Ru asked Hayato how he managed to stay still, and Hayato admitted he was cold. One boy teased him, asking if he was going to cry. At that moment, Yusei appeared with the kids in a cart, and they eagerly asked to be let out. They ran straight to Ru, and their warmth comforted him. Ru asked Yusia about the cart, and he explained it kept the children from wandering during walks since they were like animals. The kids protested, calling him an idiot, but Yusia scared them by threatening that they could be kidnapped and locked in a dark room. Ru told him not to frighten the children, but Yusia still warned them not to trust strangers. The other boys noticed how warm Ru looked surrounded by the kids and began reaching out to them, calling them heat packs and even fighting over them. Nearby, a mysterious man was watching them. Ru stopped two boys from grabbing Kyorin, who hid behind Yusei. Takuma then ran to his brother for help as a boy caught Kazuma, causing him to cry in fear. Ru noticed Takuma crawling into the bushes and called for him to come back, but just then the stranger appeared, grabbing Takuma. Ru quickly handed Kotaro to another boy and rushed to save Takuma, shouting at the stranger to let him go. Hayato threw his shoe, hitting the stranger directly, and Takuma smiled in excitement. The stranger fell, still holding him. Yusia complimented Hayato's accurate throw, while Ru asked if Takuma knew the man. Takuma happily revealed the stranger was his and Kazuma's father. The man, Kusuk, apologized for causing trouble, and Ru asked why he had been lurking in the bushes. Kusuk explained he was an actor, recently in a toothbrush commercial, and didn't want to cause a scene. Ru and Hayato didn't recognize him, and Kusuk felt embarrassed. He shared that it was his first day off in 6 months, and he wanted to spend it with his kids, fearing they might not recognize him. Ru suggested he spend more time with them at the daycare, and Kusuk agreed. Takuma and Kazuma came over, and Ru handed Kazuma to Kusuk. However, Kazuma cried, not wanting to be held by a stranger. Ru explained that Kazuma didn't like being held by unfamiliar people, and warned that leaving now would only create more distance between him and his sons. Kusuk was touched, tears in his eyes, and Ru promised to help him make up with the kids. Takuma commented on Kusuk being a crybaby, but Kusuk played with him. Kazuma still cried, and Kusuk apologized. Yusia whispered that he didn't know Kazuma disliked his father so much. Kusuk, sitting defeated, decided to leave. He waved goodbye to his sons, but as he walked out, a student recognized him, causing a crowd of girls to swarm him for autographs and photos. Kusuk was thrilled to see Takuma and Kazuma calling him Papa through the crowd. Just then, a teacher appeared, blowing a whistle and warning the girls to return to class. The girls quickly ran off, and Kusuk's wife, who was also the teacher, apologized and explained what happened. She added that she'd been showing the twins his movies to make up for his absence, noting that in his last film he had played a kidnapper, which was why Kazuma was scared of him. The twins asked if he would play with them, and Kusuk hugged them, his tears falling as they smiled with joy. Meanwhile, Sero silently watched their happy family. The next morning, cherry blossoms were in full bloom as Ru began his first day of high school. After graduation, he went to the bulletin board to put up a babysitter recruitment poster, only to find it covered by flyers from other clubs. He went to the daycare room where the kids immediately tackled him. He dropped the poster, which landed on Sero's head, and Kotaro stood still, making no effort to remove it. Yusa read the flyer off Kotaro's head, and Ru asked him to at least take it off. Yusa suggested they visit other clubs, and the twins happily agreed. Tako wanted to visit his brother's club, and Kirin was excited too. In the hallway, the kids held hands and made a parade, singing and dancing, while Kotaro struggled to catch the rhythm. Ru felt embarrassed as all eyes were on them. Kirin eagerly opened the drama club door, but got scared along with the others, except for Takuma, when they saw her mom in zombie makeup. Her mom, who ran the club, joked about the power of makeup, but Ru stopped her, pointing out that the kids were scared. The children trembled, hiding behind him. Sero tugged at his pants, pointing to kids running down the hall, and Ru quickly apologized to her. Yusa, with his scary makeup, ran past them, and the twins met their mom, hugging her. Ru explained they were exploring other clubs when Kirin caught a sweet scent. The kids followed it, and Inamda, who was in the cooking club, greeted them. Ru asked if anyone had seen any kids, and the kids were excited to reunite with him. Inamda scolded him for letting them run off, but blushed, realizing her mistake and apologizing. One girl remarked that it was clear Rue cared deeply for the kids. Rue apologized for the trouble, but when Kuma refused to leave without sweets, he had to drag him away. He promised to visit the sports club where his brother played baseball. Takuma eagerly watched the club practice, but Hayato quickly looked away, upsetting him. Takuma yelled at him for being mean and cried louder when Hayato hit him. Rue felt the sadness Takuma experienced as he realized the fun was being denied to him. Sero noticed more ants and tried to get Rue's attention, but Rue noticed his sad face. Yusuya also noticed. The kids asked where they were going next, and Rue said he needed to find a place to put up the babysitter poster. Kotaro refused to go but pretended not to care. After Rue left, Kotaro ran off, putting the poster on a bulletin board corner. He sulked, but Hayato appeared with an application wanting to join the babysitter club. Sero had recruited him, noticing his sadness. Rue was amazed by how well his little brother understood him. The other kids arrived with cookies, offering them to Rue to cheer him up. He was moved. At the end of the day, the boys wore matching aprons as Inamda brought them cookies. Hayato joked they might break a tooth, and Inamda angrily told them not to eat the cookies if they didn't want to. The next morning, Rue woke up with Kotaro fast asleep on his chest. As he rubbed his eyes, the chairwoman entered, scolding him for staying in bed. When he got out, he slipped and fell. He struggled to get up, repeatedly slipping. Ziwa congratulates Rue on his changing voice, but the chairwoman smacks him and he quickly apologizes, claiming it was a joke. She then takes Kotaro away, warning him that if he also caught a cold, it would double the trouble. Kotaro stands at the door, whimpering, but she tells him to come help make medicine for Rue. Rue lies on the bed to rest. Meanwhile, Kotaro, still calling her Shaggy, asks if she's referring to the blanket or herself. She tosses the blanket at him and asks him to follow her to the kitchen. She aggressively cuts a lemon in half while Kotaro mutters, "Demon lady." She instructs him to squeeze the lemon into a small cup for honey lemon tea to help Rue feel better. Kotaro sits on the floor, shakes, and struggles to get the lemon juice into the cup. The chairwoman offers to help, but he refuses. Finally, he manages to get one drop into the cup, smiling as he shows it to her. She tells him to squeeze more, but he continues juicing. She finds a lemon juicer in the drawer, but allows him to continue. Kotaro finally finishes, but as he stands up, he knocks over the juice. The chairwoman hands him the other half of the lemon and suggests he try again while she cleans up the mess. She comments that Kotaro is quite determined. Later, she asks Siawa about Rue's condition, and Siawa reports that Rue's fever is slightly better, urging him to continue resting. Rue dreams of his family while he's sleeping. In the dream, his parents are going on another trip, this time taking Kotaro with them. Rue begs them not to take Kotaro, fearing he won't return, and cries in his sleep. Kotaro, still alive, wakes him and wipes his tears, though his hands sting from the lemon. The chairwoman appears, pointing out that his hands have lemon on them, and gives him a cup of hot tea, saying Kotaro made it. Rue thanks God for not taking his baby brother away and pats Kotaro's head, thanking him. The chairwoman lifts Kotaro, telling him he must leave, which confuses him. Kotaro had hoped that after the medicine, his brother would be fine, but the chairwoman insists that Rue still needs rest. Rue worries Kotaro might catch his cold, which leaves him disheartened. The next morning, Midori's mom leaves her with Rue, waving goodbye. Rue suggests they read a storybook before others arrive, but while trying to change Midori's diaper, Rue realizes he's run out. As he opens the cabinet for more wipes, Midori crawls over to the door and accidentally pulls on a student's pant leg, causing him to fall. As they sit and chat, he complains about the smell, jokingly asking if it's a poop club. Sero, holding a Cinderella picture book, listens as the conversation continues. The boy teasingly calls Midori a poop factory and Kotaro space cadet, but Rue defends Kotaro. The boy asks if Rue is looking after a girl named Midori, unaware that poop factory refers to her. Rue questions his interest, and the boy explains he wants to see the face of his future daughter. Confused, Rue asks how he can think about that as a student. The boy laughs it off, saying, "Call me Anyui-senpai, I'm older than you." Rue reminds him that Midori's mom is married, but Anyui shrugs it off, declaring that love knows no boundaries. This leaves Rue flustered, but Anyui dismisses him, claiming Rue doesn't understand romance. As Anyui leaves, Yusuya waves a hand in Rue's face, snapping him out of his daze. Kirin teases that Rue was sleeping with his eyes open. Poor Sero is still holding the Cinderella book, waiting for Rue to read it. but Rue promises to do it later. He then asks Yusuya about Midori's father, learning he's working overseas, confirming that her mother isn't widowed or divorced. Rue becomes alarmed, wondering if Midori's mom is cheating with Anui. Yusa jokingly asks if Rue likes older women, but Rue denies it. Back in class, Rue tells Hayato about it, but Hayato bluntly advises him to mind his own business. Class starts, but Rue is distracted by thoughts of Midori's mother and Anui's comment about his lack of romantic experience. Rue reflects on how he's never been in love. He tries staring at Yuki, whom others say is cute but feels no attraction. When Yuki notices his gaze, she blushes, but he's lost in his thoughts. He later asks Anamata about her opinion on cheating. She condemns it, saying cheaters deserve punishment. When Rue asks if she's had a crush, Anamata, seeing herself as unremarkable, becomes upset. Rue returns to the daycare, where kids are smearing snot on Anui, while Kotaro clings to his Cinderella book. Rue gathers the children and helps them clean their noses. Holding Midori, he scolds them for picking on Anui. Anui approaches Rue, realizing Midori is Poop Factory, and asks why Rue didn't tell him earlier. As Anui complains, Midori bites his finger, and the kids call him weak. Rue argues that pursuing a married woman is wrong, but Anui, misunderstanding, believes Midori's father is dead, and vows to support her family. Suddenly, Midori's mom arrives. Anui, flustered, approaches her, only for the children to tease him, calling him a boiled octopus. He stammers but says nothing as Midori cries. Her mother calms Midori, reassuring her that her father will return soon, leaving Anui stunned. When he asks about the faraway husband, she clarifies he's returning from Turkey. Anui, embarrassed, forgets what he was going to say and instead offers to babysit so she can spend time with her husband. She thanks him, and the children attack him with toy swords. Anui later confronts Yusuya for not clarifying the situation earlier, but Yusuya laughs, saying it was too amusing. Anui sulks as Rue jokes he looked cool. Anui quips about love and marriage, and Rue notices Sero still holding the Cinderella book, finally agreeing to read it. As Rue reads, he imagines Midori and her mom reuniting with her dad. The next day, things take a playful turn as the kids pretend Rue, the Dragon King, has conquered Earth for Demon Queen Midori. The Rangers 5, Taka as red, Karo as blue, the twins as yellow, rise to challenge him. However, Kirin refuses to play, saying she wants to study to become a witch. Her announcement shocks everyone, especially Rue, who worries she's growing up too fast. Taka protests, arguing that boys can't be witches. This sparks a heated debate between Taka and Kirin about whether heroes or witches are real. Rue tries to preserve their childhood dreams, but the fight escalates. Sero attempts to mediate but is pushed aside. The next day, Taka returns with proof of heroes, a photo with the Red Ranger. He challenges Kirin, demanding evidence of witches. Determined, Kirin declares she'll prove it by flying. She grabs a broom and attempts to take off. Watching her struggle, Yusuya remarks, "That's not going to work." Taka smugly says, "I told you witches don't exist," but Kirin refuses to give up. Worried, Rue encourages her to return to class, but she persists. Later, Rue shares the problem with Hayato, who suggests telling Kirin the truth. However, Rue believes crushing her dreams would be unfair. As they talk, Anamata suddenly appears, scolding them for blocking the hallway and telling them to move aside. Rue quickly apologizes and steps aside, inviting her to go ahead. She overhears him mentioning shattering children's dreams and asks if something is wrong. Rue invites her to join the conversation, but she blushes and declines. As she starts to leave, Rue stops her, explaining they need her opinion. He tells her about Kirin's situation, and Anamata offers to help, suggesting they meet during lunch. Later, she brings books filled with evidence of witches, but Rue finds the content too frightening for children. Realizing her mistake, she apologizes and rushes out, slamming the door. Yuki wonders aloud about the nature of Rue and Anamata's relationship. Rue reflects that Anamata, while a bit peculiar, is genuinely kind. His thoughts drift to the chairwoman, whose demeanor reminds him of witches, and he imagines asking her to pretend to be one. However, he quickly envisions her scolding him to focus on his studies. Meanwhile, Yusuya tries to coax Kirin back inside, but she insists she's on the verge of flying. He decides it's fine as long as she doesn't jump off anything. Kirin tugs on his pants, showing him Kirin's witch book, which Yusuya begins reading to the twins, who eagerly join in. Kirin, however, spots a ledge and starts climbing, determined to jump and fly. Rue, on his way to daycare with magic trick books, sees her and drops everything to stop her. He catches her just in time, breaking her fall. Kieran bursts into tears, devastated that her dream is shattered. Rue consoles her, regretting that he hadn't simply told her witches are fictional. At that moment, the chairwoman arrives and asks why Kieran is crying. Kieran explains she couldn't fly, and the chairwoman calmly replies, "Of course not. You need 100 years of practice." Kieran's eyes widen and she asks if the chairwoman can fly on a broom. The chairwoman smiles cryptically, leaving it to Kieran's imagination. The other kids, amazed by her words, cheer up. Taka suggests they can play witches too, and Kieran finally smiles. Watching this, Rue admits that, for a moment, he almost believed the chairwoman might truly be a witch. Thanks for watching. Check out this next video, and remember to subscribe Annie Zap.